Open. Firstly, may I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we meet on this evening, the Wiradjuri people, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Second point I would make to everyone in the chambers and in the gallery that we conduct our meetings live streamed, so anyone who speaks in open forum or in the chamber is recorded and is broadcast live. So I'll take that into consideration. Public forum. I understand we have some speakers in public forum, and I believe I would have a list somewhere. Thank you, thank you, thank you. First speaker in the public forum tonight is speaking on item 18299, which is the DA for the construction of an access road. And that speaker would be Bill Chapman. Thank you, Bill. You have 5 minutes to speak, Bill, and I'll give you a little rattle when the 4-minute mark approaches.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak again in regards to this item, the access to BILLABOOLA, being DA 2017 number 190. I last spoke to Council in regards to this DA here at your meeting on the 24th of May 2017. That's over 1.5 years ago. I initially met with Ian Rice and Dirk Weimar on site on the 15th of December 2016. It's now going to be our 2-year anniversary in 3 days. At that site meeting, there appeared to be no major issues. We even received conditions on the Working in Road Reserve Permit 2016 WIR 00050. We'd agreed to the entrance construction standard. We'd agreed on approvals required. The issue, which wasn't even an issue with Council at the time of the meeting, was the standard of construction within the road reserve. It was to be a driveway through a road reserve servicing a single property. The end user, the new owners of BILLABOOLA, had agreed to enter into a maintenance agreement with Council with respect to the road. As we were to construct a formation with the Crown Road Reserve, it requires the consent of the Crown, lodgement of the DA, and ultimately dedication of the reserve from the Crown to Council. Again, all totally normal procedures which are done often. This is a road. Its prime purpose is access. That's what it's for. Anyone can use it for access now for any purpose of access should they choose. We could actually drive a truck along it tomorrow if we wanted to. However, in order to do any work in excess of maintenance, such as build the driveway, it is a requirement that we lodge a DA with Council, we get consent to the application by the Crown, construct it and dedicate it to Council. All normal. Other councils don't seem to have an issue with it. Generally, the standard of construction is to a right of access standard or driveway. Formal maintenance agreements are entered into, all normal. We met with and obtained consent of the Crown for the DA. No issue. DA was lodged with Hilltops Council around April 2017. I didn't find the exact date, and that's when everything stopped. From your report, it refers to other options available. A right of access through adjoining property. We explored this option, but it was refused. This would have been the most desirable option, and it actually remains the most desirable option. However, the adjoining owner has not consented. We could continue existing access from the former Council Road being Campbell's Lane through Cudgel Creek Crossing. Unfortunately, the physical formed road is not within a road reserve, and despite cooperation and a good relationship with the owner of that land, consent to formalising this is also not available. That only leaves the road reserve as access to the property. We provided Council with all information requested. It appeared that the issues related to environmental matters. We provided preliminary designs, we obtained an arborist report on the affected trees, we had several site inspections. We staked out centre lines. We've always stated to Council that the intention is to cause minimal disturbance, minimal tree removal. The access morphed from a driveway to a road standard, and we've always said to Council again, You set the standard. If you require 4 metre width or 6 metre width, we'll do it. If you require us to avoid trees, we will do it. You're the consent authority. Provide us with your consent to this DA with your conditions. It's our job to comply with them when they're reasonable. I've read your report, and actually it turns out that there aren't significant environmental issues. There are not threatened species present. There is no critically endangered species present. There are no permanent watercourses, no critical habitats, and the construction is not considered to constitute a threatening process. It's all from the report. You've had a year or so to develop a policy. Other councils can do this. The purpose of the road reserve is access, and we're proposing access, nothing else. It's public land set aside for access. We've complied with all the requirements in regard to getting the DA approved. Following approval, there will be conditions including construction certificates and permits required, which we still need to get. But until we can get approval, nothing can progress. A quote from your report: the road reserve was designated for road uses many decades ago and has not changed. The suitability of the site is therefore, to a degree, already determined, and we couldn't agree more. We look forward to a DA consent subject to your reasonable conditions. And in regard to your conditions, again from the draft consent additions from the report.
You've got about a minute, Bill.
Yep. Proposed condition 11, section 94, contributions 12,000. Report states that the development will not be adding or, turn the page. Additional traffic movements. We've also agreed to entering into a maintenance agreement. So as far as I can see, there are no additional costs or burdens as a result of the construction, therefore no additional pressures or burdens on infrastructure, so therefore no justification for contribution. Condition 21, a bond for completion. This is a new one. Wouldn't be proposing to return to the site to start construction for an additional layer of 125 mil of road base at a cost of $229,000. We're proposing to construct a road, again, from council information provided to us, 200 mil thick, 100 mil compaction. That's it. We don't intend to return or follow up construction. The road will be maintained by the user of the road, BILLABOOLA. A couple of other matters. The water tank and the power line stay. The water tank installed by the adjoining owner on Crown Land is not a problem. Our access can avoid it and safely avoid it. There's no reason why it should be moved. The electrical stay happens to be on the road reserve. Again, we can avoid it. There's no reason to move it. There's no different from the thousands of other power poles, Telstra poles and other utility infrastructures within road reserves. Or is it Council's new policy that utility services be erected outside the road reserve? The stay can stay where it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the second speaker in public forum on the same item 18299 is Chris Bunning.
Thank you, Mayor Ingram and councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I speak on behalf of 3 other objectors. I'd like to begin by strongly objecting to the time we have had to respond to this proposal. According to council staff, the letter informing us that the proposal would be discussed was sent on Monday, and we still have not received our copy. Given the serious impact the proposal will have on our business, our CEO would have travelled from Sydney to address this meeting. However, with no notice, this was impossible. It is therefore our belief that this proposal should not be voted on today. You received objections about the entry point of the proposed road onto the BRIBBAREE Road. We believe the photos in the submission give no idea of the wetland and the pristine boxgum area that the road would traverse. We also have serious concerns about the safety for traffic entering onto the BRIBBAREE Road. A neighbour had a proposal to move his driveway entrance up the hill rejected recently. The visibility at his entrance is far better than the proposed road. We would again like to reiterate that the proposed road cuts through the middle of our property. It dissects our current access road in 3 places, cuts through our existing laneway system and cuts the infrastructure off from the rest of the farm, therefore affecting the value of our property. It is suggested in the proposal that the proposed road would be of benefit to neighbours. We believe our current access is both safer and more convenient, and the proposed road will benefit no one else. The road is being constructed for the benefit of only one entity. Although it has not been mentioned, the real concern of all the objectors is the possibility of a DA for a piggery at BILLABOOLA being applied for. This has real implications for the use of the proposed road. We believe that with the increased truck traffic, the suggested figure of $10,000 in maintenance will not even come close to the real cost to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to both speakers. I'll call for apologies. Apologies to note. Apologies to note. I presume Councillor Wallace.
Yes, Councillor Tony Wallace and Councillor John Walker.
Councillor John Walker. There's no further apologies. I'd like someone to
Yes, that's right.
move that way. Councillor Armstrong, second to Councillor Stadmiller. Thank you. I'd ask everyone to be upstanding, please. A moment. A moment's silence to express our sympathy on the passing of Charles Uren, Colleen Glenhill, Karen Corwell, Darryl Pratt, Lois Bullor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next item on the agenda is the confirmation of the minutes of our last meeting. Move that way, Councillor Horton. Second to Councillor Manchester. All those in favour? And so be it. Item 7. Declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest?
Through the Mayor, I have a non-pecuniary interest and I will absent myself from the vote on 18295.
Thank you, Councillor Rolls.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I have a pecuniary.
Anyone else? No? Thank you. Item 8. Councillor Horton.
Just on item 292, financial implications, it says 100 hours per day, cost in the order 5,000 per annum. That leaves pretty close. 100 hours per day, cost in the order of 5,000 per annum. Page 137, 18 to 292.
You're talking about the previous minutes, Councillor Horton, or the report, this report?
I'm talking about this report.
We'll deal with that matter when we come to item 8 and 292. Thank you. Okay, that takes us to item 18289, which is a mayoral minute with the use of the council seal on the RNSW grant under D. The report's there in front of you, councillors, and pretty self-explanatory. Move that way, Councillor Horton. Seconded, Councillor Manchester. All those in favour?
Aye.
Again, so be it. Thank you. That takes us over to my diary, which is self-explanatory. There was a couple of other little ones. I went to a sports advisory meeting off there. That takes us on to the councillor reports that are there submitted by Councillor Horton, Councillor O'Connor and Councillor Rolls. I'll go around and ask the other councillors if they'd like to talk to their diary. Councillor Horton.
Mine's self-explanatory, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong.
And all the school costs that I possibly want to get.
Thank you. Councillor Rolls.
Now I have minuted. I'd like to, when it comes, put a commendation in.
Yep. So you handed that to staff?
Oh, would you like me to do it now?
Yep.
I'd like for council to send a letter of commendation to Maureen Nation who has just received the Anne Clark Service Award, which is awarded to an individual in recognition of their significant contribution to the development of netball at an association level. And it's for people who have given that contribution for at least 10 years, and I'm informed that Maureen has been involved for over 30 years and is continuing, and in the words of the President, that they would be lost without her. So I feel that she certainly deserves our commendation.
Thank you for that, Councillor Rolls. Councillor Stadmiller.
Meetings as minute, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to make a point regarding the BPA at Geelong. I've had a number of constituents come to me and stress the slowness that it appears that money is rolling out. I'm unclear why that's happening, but maybe we could get an answer at the next council meeting.
Thank you for that. Councillor Manchester.
Minutes as minuted and an LEP meeting and a Sabelco liaison meeting. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tuckman.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Meetings as minuted, but I'd just like to congratulate staff who organised the carols in the park in BOOROWA last Sunday, particularly Miss Johnson, and there was a couple of other workers as well. It was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor O'Connor.
As my report, except for last night, I didn't make it to Hilltops Connect. I had the Trinity School presentation instead.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, what I will do now, we'll seek Council's consent to bring the item that was spoke about in open forum forward, item 18299. Would someone like to move that way? Councillor Manchester? 299 is the one spoke on. We can deal with it. 299 and seconded by Councillor Horton. All those in favour? Aye. Then, thank you. So be it. So, councillors, item 299. I just might take the floor for a moment in regard to this item. It was spoken by Mr Chapman about the length of time that had been in council's hands. That may well be the case, but it hasn't been in the hands of the councillors that are sitting in this room at the moment as elected councillors. The first I became aware of this was on Friday evening, as the first knowledge officially I've had of this DA. So it may have well been on a table somewhere on a desk or dealt with before, but as a councillor in this room, I can tell you that the first official notice I had of it was on Friday. I've spoke offline to a couple of other councillors who have some feelings about the same matter, about the length of time that they've had this item in front of them to grasp and get the meaning of item 299, which is preluded by 298, and ramifications and areas of concern around those matters. So to be fair to the people that are applying for the DA and the people who have objections to that, and to the councillors in this room, I would be asking councillors again for their consent to defer this matter till more advice and more understanding is taken on board. Up to councillors.
Mr Mayor, I've made a few notes on this before the meeting, before the meeting. I think it's reasonable to have decent access to the property.
Councillor Horton, I'll just come back to, if we're not going to defer this matter, then I'll put it in an appropriate manner and we'll speak for and against it.
I second that, Mr.
Thank you. Councillor O'Connor seconds. To defer the matter, all those in councils in favour? Aye. Again? That's carried. Item 299 is deferred. Thank you. That takes us back to where we started. Item 18290, the General Manager's Report.
Certainly through the chair, We have brought back the annual report to you after comments made to us from the last meeting, and you had that for your perusal. The comments made at the last meeting were to alter and correct inaccuracies that existed within the report, especially in relation to councillors' representation on committees, and to add in a range of activities that had not been captured in the first draft, and that final draft is now before you.
Recommendations there, councillors.
Question.
Councillor Armstrong.
I note that the General Manager advised that there's the inaccuracies are being fixed up. The Policy Development Review Committee, my understanding is that that's the Mayor and Deputy Mayor. I don't believe I'm a Deputy Mayor.
That'll be fixed up when it goes on the web.
So there are still inaccuracies within the document.
That was the only one.
But it wasn't fixed up.
It was overlooked by the staff member.
Councillors, do I have a mover for the recommendation? I move Councillor Manchester, seconded Councillor Tuckerman. No further questions. All those in favour? Again? So be it. Item 18291, financial statements for Hilltop Council, Executive Director of Corporate and Community. Talk to that, or
So through the Chair, I'll just hand over to our Chief Financial Officer, Judy Jordan, to make that presentation.
Okay.
Through the Chair, the draft statements have been presented to Council to endorse to take to audit. They show an improvement over budget with a surplus of $2.7 million before capital and a loss of $3 million after capital. Balance sheet has some increases. You'll notice that a large increase in plant and infrastructure, and that's due to a revaluation of building assets. It was quite a large increase. There was $19 million increase in the value of our building assets. The majority of those were the larger buildings within the former Young area. The valuations came in much higher than had previously been advised. I can keep talking,
Mayor,
but
I just ask a question? Why 19 million is an extraordinary amount of money? Why did they say that there was an increase in that value?
They did a compartmentised. I'm not right over the scope of that work. They did the larger buildings. They did in compartments, and the values in Young may have increased in that period of time. We're remembering we're valuing a lot of building assets, so there might be minor increase in a lot of areas, but there is some significant, $2 to $3 million in some of the buildings in the Young township, the CBD. Yeah. So that will have an effect on your depreciation in the coming years.
Just three, Mr. Mayor, just one quick question. And thank you very much for supply of these. The componentisation of those buildings.
Yep.
Were there any particular areas within the components themselves that constituted the largest part of that $19 million?
I'd have to get some advice, Greg. We've had another staff member right across the asset side of the statement, so I'd have to get some advice and get back to you.
I think it'd be interesting for councillors to see that if it could be provided.
Yep. Can provide that.
councillors, any of questions on the matter? If not, I'll put the recommendation. So to mover. Moved Councillor Armstrong, seconded Councillor O'Connor. All those in favour? Again, so be it. You takes us to item 18292. Executive Director of Corporate and Community.
We've had a request from the MURRINGO Community Association to assist with taking over installing some playground equipment and taking over the management of a playground. So the MURRINGO Community Association got a grant, have purchased playground equipment and have recognised that they cannot manage that on an ongoing basis, and have asked if the council would install, manage and maintain the playground at the MURRINGO Wild Paddock site.
One question, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, I'm just waiting. Yep, finished. Yep, okay. Councillor Tuckman.
I'm just wondering, 100 hours per day. I didn't realise there was 100 hours in a day.
Some days I wish there was.
Sorry, that should be per annum.
Question for the
Councillor Stadler.
relevant director. $20,000 worth of equipment doesn't seem like a lot of money when we engage a big company. Should we look at trying to find some funds to get something more substantial from MURRINGO and hold off on this?
Probably a question for another time, given that the report that's in front of us that they've got and what they want to go ahead with, I think, yeah.
You just need to move it a second.
Yep, I do. In a minute, I'll do that. Have I got a mover and a second for that, Matt? Item 18292.
Happy to move the...
Move, thanks to Councillor Tuckman. Seconded to Councillor O'Connor. Anyone want to speak for that recommendation? No? Anyone wants to speak against that recommendation?
Question?
Question, Councillor Armstrong.
Just in regard to the softfall that's proposed to be installed, and can council be advised as to the style of softfall?
To the director.
It is 300 mil deep bark chip, meeting the Australian standard.
Just a question. Where is the equipment at the moment?
In storage. Somewhere in MURRINGO.
Okay, councillors, no further questions or debate. I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, no vote. Item 18293, painting of the parrot. Again to the Executive Director of Corporate and Community.
Council has been approached by the BOOROWA Landcare Group and OEH to paint a parrot, a superb parrot, on the side of the BOOROWA silos. The silos are operated by council. I think the financial implications for council are that they would seek grant funding for the painting. Council would then have to maintain that. It's also, there has been a lot of interest in silo art, so there's a bit of a tourist drive visiting silo art. So this is to seek council permission as the landowner and support for the painting of a superb parrot on those silos.
Okay, councillors, the report's there and the recommendations there. We've got a mover and a seconder. Moved Councillor O'Connor, seconded Councillor Rolls. Any questions or debate? Councillor Tuckerman.
Just a question, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Horton.
I'm just wondering how many silos there are in the Hilltops, and if we agree to one, how many more are we going to get down the track?
This one's a little bit different because we own it. So the BOOROWA silos are actually owned by the Hilltops Council.
Thank you. Councillor Tuckerman.
A couple of questions. I think we really have to have a really good look at this in regards to how people are going to view it, where it's situated, what are we going to do with the silos into the future? Are we looking at selling them? Are we leasing them to anyone at the moment? I just honestly think that this is something that needs to be consulted with the wider community, with a plan, if we're interested in doing something like that. Just from where they are, where they sit. I'm just a bit concerned about access, people accessing the silos and the street. And to be quite truthful, I just wonder whether that money can be better spent up on Red Hill, educating people about the superb parrot. But having said that, it could also be a good tourism thing. But I think we need to really have a look at the site and work out whether that's a possibility.
Well, I've had a mover and a seconder for the recommendation that's there. Would you like to foreshadow an amendment to that recommendation? Or I'll put the recommendation as it is.
I know the recommendation, deciding whether or not is all decided. Are we recommending the recommendation?
Yes, yeah, through the Chair, you're quite right. The recommendation should read that Council give permission and support the painting of a superb carrot on the site of the BOOROWA silos. And you have the option to vote that up or vote that down.
So I'd like to move an amendment that we do further investigation in regard to painting of the silo.
Point B.
Can I just, without seeking a formal amendment, can I just suggest they can get advice on the state of the silos, their occupancy and long-term arrangements?
Covered pretty well from what Councillor Tuckman's point was. Yep. So we got that amendment on the board to go with that?
Before a decision is made.
Yep. Oh, motion. No. I had a move and a seconder, and this was an amendment to what they moved and seconded. If this is okay by the mover and the seconder, are they happy to have that amendment added to that? Yep. Councillor Aldous? Yep.
I'm happy to add some more that was reflected. Okay. Further investigation in regards to the condition of the silos, the site. And the site.
And the future use.
And future use. And a consultation plan. Traffic management, consultation, all that sort of, I suppose. That's filled in. No.
Chair, I used to lease the silos up to about 5 years ago. They were in the stand with their significant WHS issue.
How are we looking now, Councillor Tuckerman?
No microphone.
It's considered.
Just a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the General Manager. Is there any likelihood of contamination of this site through the use of chemicals, fumigants or other materials by the previous owners that may impact upon its use as a tourist attraction?
Through the Chair, I think certainly what councillors have raised is there's not a lot of deal of information in relation to the site and its history in our ownership, and that you're obviously seeking that information to come back. We certainly can have a look at that because, of course, it is a industrial site, and therefore the access to the site and the surrounds around the silo should also be considered, and certainly that's incorporated as part of that current amended motion that's been proposed.
The mover and seconder happy with the motion that's on the board? In that case, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Again? Brilliant, thank you. Item 18294, cash and investments. They're in front of councillors to receive. Mover and seconder for that. Moved Councillor Horton. Seconded Councillor Rolls. Any questions? I'll put that. All those in favour? Thank you, so be it. Item 18 295. Councillor Rolls is excusing yourself. Okay, councillors, the report and is all there in front of you in the recommendation. Would the director like to speak to that before I seek a mover and seconder?
Through the Chair. Essentially, this has been out on public exhibition. The proposed development control plan and amendment to the LEP. We've got one submission on that, which simply says we don't want it.
Big boys.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, could I just ask a question to the Director?
What's the guide of the cost for the exhibiting of the draft DGT?
Through the Chair, it's normal advertising costs. That's what it is that we do. We put it out in the paper and put it out on public exhibition.
There are financial implications related to the cost of exhibiting the draft DCT.
Well, yeah, there are, and there are financial implications, but it's the normal advertising process that we go through. It's still a cost to council, albeit a very minimal cost, but it is still a cost to council. If that, the normal cost of an ad in the paper.
Take it on notice, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know what the cost of the paper is.
Okay, councillors, the report's there. Have a move and seconder, or
I'm happy.
Councillor O'Connor.
Do we have any idea of the time frame that they want to put the extension on, like to build on it? Will that happen before the new LEP is done or after?
Through the Chair, they still need to go through the process of getting the planning proposal adopted and through the Department of Planning, and then they need to lodge a development application and go through that process. So it's still a little way off. I don't know. They've given no indication of when they're likely to construct.
I'm happy to move it, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Manchester, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Armstrong, thank you. You want to speak to that? If not, anyone like to speak against that? I'll put the matter. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. And so be it. Planning matter unanimous, I believe. Please, we record the votes. Thank you, Director. I seem to take a big leap now and go over to 18296, which is, again, they're in front of you, councillors. If you'd like the Director to speak to that report, or someone like to move it?
I'll move it.
It's been recommendation's been moved by Councillor Horton, seconded by Have I got a seconder for the recommendation, councillors? If I haven't got a seconder.
I'm happy to second it, but just ask one question. Did this come before council? I thought we did waive these fees once before. Is that correct, or is it some other section fees?
Through the Director?
Sorry, through the Chair, this is a second request from this organisation to waive fees. This is a different matter. So this is the lowering of the dam wall. The previous one was the conversion of some of the buildings on site to a temporary facility to house the residents while the building was upgraded.
Anyone like to speak for recommendation, the mover? No? Anyone like to speak against? Councillor Stadner.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to speak against it just for the fact that think 2 meetings back, there was a gentleman who was putting in a application. He had fees imposed on him of around $8,000. This is meant to be a not-for-profit organisation, but they have considerable assets, and I don't think it's unfair to see them charge the contribution fee.
Councillor Stadmiller. Anyone else speak for the recommendation? Anyone else like to speak against the recommendation?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Armstrong.
I'd like to speak against it. I support the position that Councillor Stadmiller has taken in regard to this, and I also am reminded of the recent DA contribution that Council had resolved to pursue in regard to a small family, a local family. I see this organisation as a large multi-million-dollar organisation, not a small charity. I'm of the belief that 100% of the water that this dam collects is from their facility, not from anyone else. I'm at a loss as to what the basis of discounting this fee is, given that the development is entirely for the benefit of this organisation and for the disposal of or the collection of their stormwater.
Thank you, Councillor. You wish to speak, Director? Thanks, Councillor Armstrong.
Through the Chair, if I may, our Section 94 plan, or the one that covers the former Youngshire, actually allows for not-for-profits to make an application to council for council to waive the fees or waive the Section 94 fees, and that's the basis of this report coming before council. Staff don't have the delegation to make the determination, and that's why it's brought before council for determination.
Thank you for that. The comment I'd make on it was a bit the same, that the recommendation seems to say yes for this, but not that long ago it said no to the same similar type of thing. I just can't work the logic out with how that worked. But Councillor Flannery.
Mr. Mayor, I was a director or whatever, board member for St Lawrence Home, which became Southern Cross Care. And when it became Southern Cross Care, their motto was give a hand up, not a hand out. So it's good for them, it's good for us, I would have thought.
Thank you for that, Councillor Flannery. So there's been for and against on both sides. So I had a move and a seconder, so I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That recommendation is lost. Okay, do a recording. Councillor Manchester voted for, and Councillor Horton voted for. The rest of the councillors voted against. Armstrong, Rolls, Stadmiller, Puckerman, O'Connor, Flannery and Ingram. Thank you. I lost my page, I'm sorry team. I'll find it again. 18297. The development application stats for November. Receive a note.
Moved.
Councillor Horton, thank you. Seconded. Councillor Stadmiller, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Again. Thank you. So go over to 18298. So just to bring Councillor Flannery up to speed. Okay. 18299 has been deferred, which is we're following this one. So this is 298. But so the interest will be still there, I presume, being the same matter. Okay. So, councillors, 18298 is there, the report. You can excuse, yep. You can get the paperwork put in somewhere. 18298.
Transfer Crown Road Reserve.
So, councillors, the report's there. I'll hand to the Director of Infrastructure if he'd like to give a little outline of thoughts, if you'd like to have some thoughts on that. And throw you right at the bus. Sure. Given that the Director has just jumped on board and this has been put on his lap, but feel free to make comment if you like.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The application has been around a long while. There is no technical reason, however, there is a perception there that it is serving one property. But when you look at the plan that's attached, there is potentially, I think, 15 or 20 lots that could potentially be served. Admittedly, those lots are absorbed into bigger farms, but in the future, they may well service a number of smaller areas. I'm looking for a policy decision from Council on this particular road. I think we do need to prepare a policy document as we go along so that we don't get caught in the same situation again in the future.
Thank you for that. Councillors, the recommendation is there.
Through you, Mr Mayor, because this is more or less to formulate a policy, the Crown Roads are or can be a major concern. There are a lot of them across, there are enough of them in Hardinshire, let alone across the old Hardinshire, let alone across the whole lot of Hilltops. And I believe that even some of the streets around here in Hardin are actually on Crown Road reserves. So it is a problem, and it's a problem right across the state, and I believe that we do need a policy so that we can move forward with what happened with these Crown Road reserves, because there were a number that came before Hardin where people wanted them open and to hand the cost over to the Shire, which was subsequently refused. And I think we need to look closely at them. Obviously, 18229 is another consideration, but I'm just talking about overall the policy with regards to unformed Crown Road reserves.
Thank you, Councillor Manchester, for that contribution. So we've got a recommendation there, councillors. Do I have a mover and seconder?
I move it.
Oh, you moved the Sorry, Councillor Manchester moved. Seconded, Councillor Horton. Councillor Manchester spoke to the Director.
Sorry, Mr Mayor. Can I just make one small, and I'll put that on your desk here, can I just make one small change to the recommendation I put there that just says subject to the approval, Council's approval of the DA, that Council then accept, rather than locking Council in a position where we accept regardless, but it's subject to the approval of, that Council then accept. There's just a slight change in the wording there. At the beginning of that sentence, at the beginning of Part B, at the beginning of Part B, so it says, where it says to accept it, rather than that, say Part B, subject to the approval of the DA, then Council accept. That just then makes sure that we don't get the road by default, regardless.
Yeah. So that's how it works.
Through you, Mr Chairman, with that, if we put that clause in there, I was thinking about actually, after having a look at that thing of deleting Part B there anyhow, but by putting that word in there, that means that we can automatically get ownership of once the DA is approved.
If the DA is approved.
If the DA is approved.
Why don't we just delete that section?
My suggestion would be that we delete that part.
It's got the feeling that it could work against us as well as it could for us. Is that correct?
Yes.
And through you, Mr Mayor, the issue is, though, is how long is it going to take to prepare these policy? We can't sit on this for very long.
No, I agree, and that's another matter to be looked at. Policy will take a while to get in place, so whether we work side by side with this and policy at the same time and come to a decision when there's more information in front of councillors, they'll be there for staff to provide to councillors, hopefully in February. That's about all we can do at this stage. And before we go any further, I just want to make sure that what's been moved and seconded has been amended properly, that Councillor Manchester's back to where we started.
I'm happy with the deletion of Part B.
Okay. The second is happy?
Yes.
Okay. Speak forward, Councillor Manchester. Did anyone wants to speak against it?
Just to seek some clarification,
Councillor Armstrong.
That resolution, as I read it there, is not taking a position in regard to this particular request. It is in effect a commitment or a statement of intent to develop a policy and nothing else. Am I correct in that?
That's it.
Okay. I note the comments of Councillor Tucker at the last council meeting in regard to another DA, another road, and her concerns at the time in regard to council undertaking the assessment of that DA as the owner of the road at the time. I shared those concerns at that time. I share similar concerns in regard to this matter.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Armstrong, and I'm sure that'll be considered when the time comes. So we've got the recommendation there in front of us, Councillor. It's been spoken for and questions asked. If there's no further questions, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. So Bird, thank you. 18299, Councillor Flannery, back to the room. Councillor Flannery re-enters. We move on to item 18300, Hilltops Works Report. There in front of us, councillors. And the recommendation is there. Move Councillor Horton, seconded Councillor Rolls, thank you. Question?
There's a few questions.
Councillor Flannery.
And the discussions last council meeting regarding the weeds and the last council meeting I raised concerns about weeds, and it was noted that the 355 committee is no longer operating, and I was advised by the General Manager, or the Council was advised by the General Manager, that the 355 committee is not required for operational works. Through the Chair, could the General Manager advise on what the formal process is for dissolving a 355 committee if it's considered that it shouldn't no longer be required?
Through the Chair, I can take that question on notice. What I am flagging is that the Weeds Authority was originally not ours. It was a separate body, and it was transferred to council with multiple council ownership. It is now under complete control, and therefore that was the premise of my logic that the Section 355 was not required, because it is under our complete control, and therefore we can actually generate a committee of any construct that the council wishes to in order to enact our business. It does not need to be a Section 355. In relation to the Section 355 committee for the joint ownership, that is going through a finalisation and a settlement process. The financial matters of that of the joint organisation that we took over still have yet to be finalised. There's a financial settlement that's involved in relation to that, and once that is resolved, then we can actually go back, closing the Section 355 process. It's our governance structure through the Chair.
I'll take that on board. The question was what's involved in dissolving a 355 committee, because as far as I'm concerned, the committee still stands, and meetings haven't been held that were scheduled to be held. I'm just wondering on what basis they're not being held, other than the fact that it doesn't suit council to hold them. Shouldn't there be a formal process of dissolving that committee if that's the intention or requirement?
Through the Chair, yes, there should be a sunset process where we actually close the committee. Yes.
So could we schedule a meeting until that's completed? Because there are significant concerns by landholders who do pay above and beyond their council rates. They pay LLS rates now, part of which is for weed control. There are concerns that weed control is not occurring, and as far as a number of them are concerned, there was a committee that was in existence to help guide council on what were the important weeds that needed to be controlled, because at the end of the day it is up to each LLS and committee to determine. The old Noxious Weeds Act has been disbanded, and it's up to each authority to determine what the weeds are that need to be controlled. So we've disbanded now. We have, I guess, disbanded or ruled out or rejected our weeds committee, and it's at staff's behest to control whatever weeds that they see they should be getting controlled, and I don't think that's acceptable. I believe we need a committee which involves farmers who are paying their LLS rates to help guide council staff on what the important weeds are to be controlled.
Yeah, this seems to be an ongoing matter with the weeds body since it was moved over to Hilltops Council, and I agree with Councillor Flannery that it definitely needs to be brought to a resolution of some sort, so there's some understanding about what is needed to be done and just how it is to be operated going forward. So I would suggest to staff that that's probably another matter that could be moved up the post a bit to bring to some certainty to everyone involved, so that the community know that we are acting and doing something about it.
Mr Mayor, can I just make a comment? If the businesses hasn't been resolved into Hilltops Council, wouldn't it be appropriate to continue the Section 355 until that happens? Do we have a date as to when that is going to occur?
Certainly, through the Chair, I can take that notice and supply you those details.
And I concur with Councillor Flannery. I do believe an advisory group perhaps is a good idea of local farmers to be able to assist council staff in the direction of weeds elimination.
And through the Chair, as Council, it's your governance structure so that you can indeed propose any form of governance that supports any strategy or objective that we have.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr Chair, just a question, probably Councillor Flannery might be able to answer it for me, but the weeds component of the LLS rates, now, previous the PP board used to do weed control themselves. Do the LLS do that now, or is this passed over to someone like ourselves?
It's passed over to ourselves now.
So the LLS are the funding body, and they give the funding to the council or whoever the authority is to manage the weeds. So at the moment we have the South East LLS and the Riverina LLS providing money, and that was the issue right from the get-go when council started, because there was a shortfall that was coming from the Riverina LLS to this council, and we needed to see the Minister in regards to why that shortfall had occurred and that we needed to fight to get it back. I don't know whether that's happened.
And that goes to one of the core issues, is that having a separate committee established, whether the council staff liked it or not, helped provide accountability for the funds that were being paid by ratepayers, farmers, I guess, and what was coming back. And it has become very onerous on staff to fill out the necessary paperwork to show that they are actually utilising the funding. But nonetheless, the committee helped work through the issues and help provide guidance. And I'm just concerned that a unilateral decision has been made to disband a 355 committee without the approval of council. And whether you want to call the 355 committee into the future or an advisory body, I don't believe staff can unilaterally just disband committees because it suits them.
The matter's been noted and will be addressed. Thank you, Councillor Flannery, for that input. It is something, as I said, needs to be resolved and rectified if need be, and to take on board the expert advice that people on the land can give our staff to help them do that. So thank you.
So for finalisation, what will the actions be moving forward?
I believe the General Manager is going to take the whole matter on notice, and I'll pass to the General Manager on that.
Look, and certainly through the Chair, we have attempted to bring information to Council a number of times now around weeds, and that is obviously still not to your satisfaction. So I take your information on notice and go back, and actually what I can do is give you a report that actually outlines the finalisation of the exit of Yass Valley from the group, or from the weeds side of the business, and the strategy that in relation to closing down the Section 355 and any implications there are. And indeed, Council can also give me, as General Manager, direction as to what kind of committee you think best represents your community and the objectives that you have around pest management, not just weeds. It could have a broad mandate. Certainly happy to suggest some options about going the kind of governance structures going forward that might help support what you're suggesting, which is indeed a broad activity for the region in an approach to weed and pest management, and a forum or focus on whether it's a committee or an advisory group that actually helps guide the application of that program dollars to its best value.
Mr Mayor, could I add Part C to the recommendation, though, in light of the General Manager's comments, that the General Manager provide a report to Council detailing the situation with the weeds.
The finalisation of
With the Weeds Committee, including finalisation of the of the 355 Committee, finalisation of the situation with Yass Valley Council and the 355 Committee. So you'll have to delete the words. Yep, up there. Full stop, new sentence. That the report include a budget for weed control and a weed spraying program. Stop. Advice be provided on the establishment of a new committee. Full stop. Probably new advisory committee. Full stop.
The mover and the second are happy with that? Yep. The mover and the second. Who was the mover and seconder to start with? Well, I've got it marked down here as I did.
Yeah, there's like a works report. That's part of the works report.
Yep.
It's hard not put it in one.
Thank you. So, the mover and second are happy with the addition point? They are? Okay. There's no more questions. I'll put that.
Mr Mayor, could I just add something?
Councillor Horton.
Add something to Councillor Flannery. We were both on the South West State Office Plan Weeds Committee for a number of years, and I thought it worked very well. A good representation from BOOROWA, from PARROT, from Young, and from Yass. And both of those guys, I worked in Plan Weeds for the CSIRO years ago, so that was my perspective. Most of the guys were farmers, and they had a good knowledge of what was required in their part of the world, in other words, the former Hardshire, the open BOOROWA area. And I was dismayed too when it was just now, because I think it was when the administration, I'm not sure.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I mean, there's been lots of reports on that, Councillor Horton, in regards to the reasons why that happened, and it was because Yass Valley had written a letter to the Hilltops Council requesting that that happened because they no longer wanted to be a part of that business with us.
And I appreciate that, and I don't see why we couldn't have let Yass just disappear and get a big pardon ball and go.
We have. That's called the Hilltops Council.
as a pre-qualified committee.
So the discussion's been had pretty well, and your point's taken, Councillor Horton, with what Councillor Flannery said about the General Manager will come back with that resolution that's on the board. So I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Again? So Bert, thank you.
Mr Mayor, if I may, please, with your indulgence.
Councillor
to the General Manager and Director of Infrastructure and Interim Director of Infrastructure during this period. My congratulations to the staff at the Hilltops Western depot for the fantastic condition that they put the gardens in the young CBD into for the Cherry Festival, the largest cherry festival in Australia. I think their work was exemplary, and please pass on my most heartfelt congratulations.
Well endorsed, Councillor Armstrong, and I've passed that on several times on several occasions. We've had the microphone over the very successful weekend. Takes us to item 18301, the action summary report. The recommendations there in front of us, councillors. Got a mover and second for the recommendation.
Move that
Councillor
position.
Horton. Seconded Councillor Manchester. No questions? I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Again. So good. Thank you. Takes us to item, pardon me, 18302. Notice of motion. Councillor Stadmiller.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The notice of motion states that Hilltops Council, as a matter of policy, formally adopts the following motion, which supports motion 97, which was overwhelmingly carried at the Local Government New South Wales conference held between the 21st and 23rd of November 2018 in Albury. Number one, to give solidarity with the people of other townships within our area, including Young, Harden, BOOROWA, Cootamundra, Gundagai, Chermit and Tumbarumba, as they seek to de-emerge from a forcibly amalgamated council. Point two, to support any other communities that seek to de-emerge from a forced amalgamation. And point three, to prevent forced amalgamations of councils or significant boundary alterations without the support of a plebiscite. I can read the note if you will. That Hilltops Council is a result of a forced merger of the former councils of Young, Harden and BOOROWA, with many residents in our community unhappy and who hold serious concerns for the future. As a council, we should either support or oppose the forced amalgamations. Local Government New South Wales has openly opposed this. By doing this, as councillors, we're showing our community that we're listening and prepared to support the democratic will of the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. Respect it. So we had a mover of the notice of motion. Is there any seconder? I'll ask one more time. Does anyone second the motion? If not, the motion...
I'll second it.
That's been seconded by Councillor Flannery. Councillor Stadmiller, I'll take it that you spoke to your notice of motion when you spoke to it. Do we have any speakers against?
Just a point. Unfortunately, I wasn't at the meeting, but this came up at the September meeting, and this is. I don't believe you can actually bring a similar motion forward within the 3-month period.
Through the Chair, Councillor Manchester, we did look at whether this was the identical motion. It is not. It is actually based on a Local Government New South Wales conference motion, and accordingly we have introduced it into the agenda because of that.
It doesn't have to be exactly the same though. It has to be similar under the legislation.
Through the Chair, our advice is that it was lawful to go.
So it's been moved and seconded. Councillor Stats spoke for it and speak against it. You can speak where you please. Councillor Flannery, you never cease to amaze me just what you might speak, so if you're speaking against it, you may well.
Look, I think that a lot of people agree that the merger process was not well received by a lot of people in the community, but we are where we are, and the government is investing heavily in us, and I think there's a lot of work to be done still for the BOOROWA and Harden communities, and I say that advisedly. Local villages, I think, would be very happy with the Hilltops Council. They've been well visited by a lot of councillors, not all councillors. We've made a big effort with them. I believe more work needs to be done in Harden and BOOROWA to unify the Hilltops Council. There's a gross lack of staff here in Harden, and we can write whatever we want to write about how many people are working out of Harden, but they're not sitting in the seats in the offices. And I think that's a grave concern, and if we want this council to work, that needs to be rectified, and rectified very soon. Otherwise, this motion will be giving weight to people who feel maligned and disengaged. So I don't believe council should vote in favour of this motion, but I believe there is resentment out there, and we as councillors need to deal with that, and we need to deal with it as part of our review, structural review that's going to happen in the new year. Having said that, I don't believe the motion does anything for Harden and BOOROWA were clearly not able, and nor was Young, under the government's audited process, to meet the long-term needs of the community. Now, whether the money that's being spent is being spent in the right areas, it is being spent and it is being invested. I believe the government has probably learnt by their mistakes by calling off other mergers. That doesn't help those who, such as Harden and BOOROWA, I guess. But we need to make sure that the long-term needs of the residents are being met, and this motion and demerging will absolutely not be of benefit to the community. We as Harden councillors agreed that our situation wasn't tenable for the next 10 years, and we need to remember that.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. I'm not sure what side of the fence I'll take that as for or against, but we'll leave that there. Anyone else like to speak for the motion?
Against the motion.
So no one else wants to speak for it? Speak against it, Councillor Horton.
I think we have to face reality that amalgamations, whether they be voluntary or forced, are here to stay. In any big corporate organisation, you see it every week, every month, where smaller branches that they have, because they're unprofitable, they merge it and they close them down together. A lot of councils are almost broke or going broke. The state government, in their wisdom, has decided to merge and put out some money and get a good shot, the best shot. I believe the majority of Hilltops councils live that way and push hard to make it work. We're not here for political grandstanding, we're here to make the merger work. I'm certainly here to make it work. Another thing that we need to look at is that the councils that are going broke and getting propped up all the time, it's not just the ratepayers that pay that money, it's the state people in the state of New South Wales, the ratepayers, the taxpayers, supporting all these little country towns that are going backwards. And so I could not support propping up or voting in favour of a shire or council demerging, for God's sake. Like that, it's here to stay. Let's get on board and make it bloody well happen. Let's make it work. Not cause. There are a few people who still want to lobby a few here and there, but the majority are in favour of it. I was in Mocker back 3 or 4 years down in Amalgamation. I was supporting the community in which I live. I wasn't necessarily in favour of it personally, but I supported it for the certain reasons. This is working well in my view, working very well. A good mayor, a good leader, and good councillors with diverse backgrounds. One fellow's given us a bit of a hassle, but the rest are working to make it a success. And so I would, mainly because of the taxpayers are supporting these councils and propping them up. They need to be reversed and made profitable. And in addition to, if you start demerging, you're going to get back to $15 million in our case. Of course we're not. We never couldn't find it. So I just against that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Horton. I'll make a comment. Because my comment will be to speak against the motion, which is a given, and everyone knows that. But just a point. In the notice of motion, speaking about other communities, Tumut and Tumbarumba, and all concerns about those communities are all concerned about it, well, just so happen that their own council's not too concerned about it, because their own council voted that down at their council meeting and threw it out the door. So I haven't got too much time of course, I worry about our whole state, but I'm more concentrated on BOOROWA, Hardin and Young, and as Councillor Flannery noted, that the smaller villages are quite happy with the way things are going, and that's how I saw this happening from the start. I would go the next step and say that, the next step up, villages like Hardin and BOOROWA aren't doing too bad, considering 43.5% of the last grant funding was awarded to Hardin. I don't know whether people in Hardin have got too much to whine about amalgamation at the moment. I'm not going to go into too many details, but they're factual with what I just said. So I'm hoping that everyone can see the benefits. Is there hard work left to go? Are there hard miles to do? We all know that sitting in this room, and so do these staff. There's a long way to go. But I like to think we're starting to make some traction to make it work, and that's where I'll leave my comment. I'll give it back to Councillor Stadmiller if he'd like to have the right to reply to anything that was said.
Firstly, thank you, Councillor Flannery, for allowing the debate, and formally Councillor Armstrong as well. Good to see. Everyone knows my position on this, and it'll probably continue to stay that way. Beg your pardon? So my position remains unchanged. It doesn't take away from the fact that when I vote in the best interests of Hilltops Council. I just have a different opinion, and thanks everybody for being fairly civil about it, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. I'll put the notice of motion. All those in favour? Against? Notice of motion is lost. Item 18303 is another notice of motion from Councillor Stadmiller.
This one's a bit shorter. The Council contribute $2,200 to the cost of the heritage study carried out by the Young Community and Residents Association, YCARA, regarding the Heritage Precinct application for Carrington Park, and that the roll-up flag be heritage listed to recognise the history around the Lambing Flats rights. Can I just be allowed a little leeway here? If councillors don't see fit to support the first part of that notice of motion, maybe the second part, for a fairly integral piece of our history, would be suitable.
Councillor Stadmiller moved his notice of motion. Is there a seconder?
Through you, Mr Chair, if the mover is happy to Part B, I think it should definitely be, it's two different items there, and I think it should definitely be separated, and maybe two separate motions.
We've got a notice of motion in front of us. It's got two parts to it. And I've had a mover. I haven't had a seconder.
I'll second that.
It's seconded by Councillor Horton.
Mr Mayor, can I move an amendment?
Councillor Tuckerman would like to move an amendment.
I'd like to move an amendment that Council support the roll-up flag be listed as a heritage item. I do have a question after that.
So I've had a mover and a seconder. Are they?
Can I make a comment, Fred Mayor?
Councillor Rolls.
I think you will find that it's already classed as an item of national significance, and it has received certain funding to make sure that it is preserved, and it is in a special hermetically sealed case, and it is recognised as of national significance, and therefore I would presume it's part of our national heritage.
That's my understanding. Thank you, Councillor Rolls. I'll go back to the initial notice of motion and the mover and seconder.
Well, I'd like to withdraw my amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Tuckerman. So there's a mover and a seconder there. Would anyone like to speak against that?
Yeah, I'd like to speak against it. I'm on the Cultural, Community and Education Precinct Community Project Steering Committee, and I've attended, you being the chairperson, you understand or know that I've attended all those meetings with the exception of one. And I seek a bit of guidance here, but my understanding is that the studies including heritage, environmental, roads, parking studies, etc., have been or are currently being undertaken at the expense of the New South Wales Department of Education and partly by the Hilltops. That's all already been funded to my knowledge. So if that's the case, we're talking to their books.
Thank you, Councillor Horton. Anyone like to speak for the motion? I'll speak against the motion on the fact that if I'm going to have to adjudicate meetings where notice of motions are picked up off social media from proponents that want to take council to task, and in principle the Mayor and councillors on social media suggest that they may put a notice of motion up at council on that matter, and it's tagged back on social media saying, oh, that'll help. We have a number of very serious items to consider at all meetings. I consider this frivolous. The idea of a community group placing no trust in the Department of Education or Hilltops Council to undertake the heritage studies that were needed to be taken and paid for significantly more than $2,200, then to cry out poor and ask council to contribute towards that. As I said, I'll leave it as frivolous. You have the right to reply, Councillor Stadmiller, if you like.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just following up from the organisation who I was discussing this with, just representing the constituents and putting the notice of motion up. Thank you for your response.
Thank you very much. We've got a mover and a seconder. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? The motion is lost. Thank you. That takes me to item 18304. Would someone like to move that we move into closed council? Move it. Move Councillor Horton. Seconded Councillor... Sorry, I missed... Sorry, I missed the correspondence as I flicked over. Correspondence for attention. Note the media releases as presented. Action nil, information nil, media release. There's a recommendation there. Moved Councillor Tuckerman. Seconded Councillor O'Connor. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Moves me to council committee reports. Councillors, sorry, I jumped the gun. Committee reports.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, it's just that the councillors can't read business paper. There is nothing within the hub to read there.
Through the Mayor, the letters don't come up. One has to go back to the emails to be able to read them.
We seem to have an issue, staff, with our council. Apologies for that, councillors. I have in front of me council committee reports for action is the BOOROWA Showground Users Group and the Jugiyong Advancement Group. So, beg your pardon? I can't read through the back of my head, I'm sorry. Why didn't it up here?
I've got it here, mine. Correspondence for attention.
Anyway, we're working towards getting this better. So the recommendation is the council place the following table of actions requested in the action list for completion.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Question, Councillor Tuckerman.
The BOOROWA Showground User Group minutes weren't attached to the business paper.
Excuse me, councillors. Could you repeat that, please, Councillor Tuckerman?
The BOOROWA Showground User Group minutes weren't attached to the business paper.
Makes it hard. Oh, this action committee report every meeting is isn't getting much better.
I can talk to the
Please.
BOOROWA Showground User Group, some of the items listed. I can't remember the official opening being discussed, but the council to propose a fee structure for use of facilities. The group were asked to put forward what they thought the fee structure should be for the facilities at the showground, and the meeting decided that it wasn't our place to do that, council staff need to work through a fee structure, and we're quite happy to look at that fee structure and provide any comment.
Through the Chair, many councils set a policy position and they articulate that. We also can articulate any fees and charges as part of that budget development process too.
Yeah, it's not usually up to the committee to do that.
That's right.
And in regards to the PA speaker storage and responsibility, that's in regards to the user agreement, and it was noted at the time that those PA speakers that are used up at the showground for football, netball, carnival and different other things, there needs to be some sort of process in regards to storing them and the whose responsibility it is to put them up for those events. So that's just working through with staff in that user agreement to work through that. So I'm not sure whether that's sort of clearly defined in the actions.
Thank you for that, Councillor Tuckerman. The Jugiong Advancement Group. Anyone like to speak to those comments that are there? Representatives of that group in the room? Councillor O'Connor.
Can I just ask a question to the Director? Is there a budget to erect some shade structures? I know the removal of the trees caused a real problem, but is there a budget to replace them?
No, there's not. I've been dealing with the infrastructure people, so the budget for Jugiong has been exhausted.
So I guess the question to you, Mr Mayor, is how can we move a motion to say that we're going to provide them if we don't have a budget for it?
It's a very good question, Councillor Tuckerman.
And that would go for the other items as well.
I go back to my original point about the council committee reports, problematic every meeting. I suggest that the committee reports are taken on notice and they can be brought back to the February meeting. Would I have councillors?
Surely, Mr Mayor, there can be just a very simple process of actions that are received and noted, or minutes that are received and noted, and then action items and what follow-up is required. So clearly the follow-up is required that some of these actions need to be listed in the New Year's budget, or in the case of shade sales, and my question, was there a reason the trees were moved? Were they unstable?
Yes, they were.
So presumably we don't have every single dollar allocated. I would have thought if trees are coming down, not Blind Freddie, but his brother, would realise that you need shade sales to go up if you're going to cut trees down or some other form of shade. So perhaps we can find some funding for the shade sales in the near term, given we're about to come into summer and use of the pool. But as a general note, surely items that required expenditure should be going off to another report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Flannery. I agree. Would someone like to put a recommendation here that I could put to Council to deal with in regard to this report?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that Council receive these reports and refer them to staff for consideration of the formulation of the 2018-19 budget.
Mr Mayor, a question for the General Manager just before we move that motion. Do we have any idea, or for the Director, of the cost of putting shade sales up, and are there any funds that could be reprioritised to get that need met for the near summer?
Through the Chair, you do not have a budget for the sales, so therefore you do need to consider that separately. If you want to allocate a budget immediately during the financial year, you need a separate report, otherwise it can indeed go as part of the consideration of the 2019-20 budget. And through the Chair, your Section 355 committees are governance structures of Council that have actually been set up to actually do work on behalf of Council, not to actually provide work for Council. So there needs to be, I agree, a clear process of how these requests are handled, and there certainly needs to be some systematic formatting in relation to the minutes of all of these committees so that they're easy to read and they follow a simple format that is easy for councillors to understand. And I agree that we need to do a certain amount of work on these reports, and I certainly am happy to work with councillors as to what the best format of that is, but there needs to be consistency right throughout, and there needs to be a consistent approach with how we're dealing with requests coming from committees that are actually designed to do work for us.
Mr Mayor, could I add?
Through the Chair, I'm just an inquiry about JAG. I presume that they have funds. Is there any reason why some of those funds can't be directed to the SAR Club?
Look, I think with the trees, they were taken down. One needed to be taken down, the other one would have needed to be taken down in the future, but because we had staff and equipment there, we did both of them at the same time. And so it's basically left no shade at the pool. So that's, I guess, what Jag's a little bit upset about. And so a new shade sale, you'd have to have a, of a certain quality for there. And the engineers have said that it's probably between $20,000 and $25,000.
That doesn't answer, through the chair, pardon me, my question about are there funds available within JAG perhaps to cover that cost?
Through you, Mr Mayor, JAG does have their own funds. I think most of them are now tied up with the new kitchen, so I don't know how many funds they'll have left, but I think it needs to be taken back to them to see if perhaps they can fund it.
Mr Mayor, I don't. In this instance where council's gone and cut the trees down, I don't know the JAG would be too happy about using money they already allocated elsewhere. Could I add a second part to that, or continue that? That the mayor and the general manager, through their delegations, seek alternatives for short-term shade for this summer, whether it be buying some of those umbrellas, or surely to God staff can go down there with a borer and a couple of 6-metre lengths of pipe and get a 90% shade cover made up with some eyelets in it and string it up. I reckon you could do it for $1,000.
I hope you didn't expect our penciler to get all that down. Did you get the gist of what he was, council was doing there?
Through the chair, that the mayor or the general manager explore short-term shade structure options for the Judy community at their earliest convenience.
Was the original mover happy to have that added?
Question, Mr. Sorry.
Well, you were the original mover. First part.
I'm happy to add that in there.
Yep.
The question is: sunscreen, liquid sunscreen, available at this facility?
Ever the practical, yes.
Through the chair, I believe that most pool management have access to sunscreen as part of their sunscreen.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the General Manager, is that a yes or a no?
The chair, yes.
So yes, there is sunscreen available at this facility?
Yes.
Is there a charge for the sunscreen?
Through the chair, no.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
Mr Mayor, I just point out the Regional Healthy Shires Committee minutes, and there are a couple of recommendations that it would be, if we could get those passed, that would be well accepted.
Okay. So I had a mover on the Jugiong ones to be included with that. Yep. So if they're in there with that, and everyone's happy enough with the Healthy Shires one, we put it all up together. If I get a seconder, I've got to get a seconder first.
Yep.
Seconded Councillor Horton. We have anyone happy with what's on the board now, or is it on the board?
Just a question, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Stadmiller.
With what Councillor Flannery said there regarding, it's just disappeared, providing advice, do you mean allowing the delegation to actually undertake something immediately? Is that how you worded that?
Look, just a bit of common sense.
Provide for the provision of covers?
Just go and get some 2-inch pipe, or a bloody eyelet.
All right, okay. We've got...
Buy some temporary umbrellas.
There are umbrellas there. There are umbrellas.
We will work to rectify the situation. So I'm back to the mover. And I've got a seconder. No, Greg Armstrong was the mover. John Horton was the seconder. If there's no more questions and everyone's happy, I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Again, thank you. I might just make a note to council staff, and I've said it before, and I don't want to have to keep saying it. This area of our council meeting has to be tidied up. It's beyond...
Mr Mayor, if I could just say in defence of the staff, I'm not
from the hub. I'm just working from the normal emails that come through, and I've got all the documentation.
I've got it in paper and I'm still not happy with it.
Okay.
So, okay. I'll jump back to 18304. I knew I went there for a reason. Someone like to move us into closed?
Yep.
Seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. So it takes us to Councillor Horton.
I seconded.
Seconded.